I can only apologise for the single-mindedness and tunnel vision on this channel over the last few days, and indeed the last month in truth, along with the blatant partisanship that I normally conceal so well. But hopefully, you can all forgive me on the basis that England are about to play in their first final of a major tournament in 55 years. And English people do make up a fairly hefty chunk of HITC Sevens subscribers and viewers. In today's video, which is unlike pretty much any other video I've ever made, I wanted to do a little preview on the biggest international fixture in European football, sharing my views on the game, both teams, the key battlegrounds in the game, and even my own combined 11. But before all that, I want to start off by talking about England and their Euro 2020 run. I know, English bias and all that, but I promise you that it won't take me long. For decades, England have been rubbish. Alright, maybe not rubbish, but they severely underachieved and underwhelmed. Actually, when it really counted, at least in the decade from 2006 through to 2016, I think rubbish would be a pretty fair assessment. The belittling of the England national team throughout that period, both at home and abroad, whether they were getting battered by Germany in Bloemfontein or sinking spectacularly in Nice against Iceland, was entirely justified. You can't polish a turd, as the saying goes, and England were one almighty turd throughout much of that time. However, right now, and for the last few years, England have been quite good. I don't care whether you're English, Scottish, Albanian or French, there are no two ways about it. Reaching the semi-final of a World Cup and the final of the Euros in consecutive tournaments is just quite impressive, even by the standards of national teams who are much more successful than England. When England reached the semi-finals of the 2018 World Cup in Russia, many people sought to downplay that achievement, drawing attention to the quality of England's opponents, the supposed easiness of their run, and their defeats to Belgium and Croatia. England did get a relatively generous run to the semis in 2018, though nowhere near as generous as Germany's run to the final in the 2002 World Cup, and many other such examples. But fair enough, we were a bit fortuitous. That's sort of how these tournaments work, and you saw the opposite in 2002 for England, where they had a really difficult run. However, those who seek to copy and paste those same old arguments into England's Euro 2020 run have a much weaker case as far as I'm concerned. Croatia and the Czech Republic proved in the knockout stage that they are no pushovers, or weak group stage opponents. Germany, as a knockout stage opener, is a brutal fixture. Ukraine, well, yeah, alright, I'll give you that one. But Denmark are a very good team, with an excellent record in recent years, who were really growing as this tournament went on. And yet, England have conceded just one goal all tournament, via a stunning free kick. England were by far the better team and more progressive team against Denmark, whether you agree with the penalty decision or not. And all I'll say about that is that the free kick from which Denmark scored the opening goal was just as soft a decision as the penalty, so if you're mad about one of them, you should really be mad about both. I'm aware that I probably sound like a very beleaguered and defensive England fan, which I'm not, but anyway, this is all pretty pointless because the people who seek to do the England team down at every turn would do it whether our run had included wins against France, Spain and Belgium, and even if we were to beat Italy 7-0 in the final. I've learned to accept that fact, but I still just wanted to get that off my chest. As for Italy, I think most of Europe was in unanimous agreement that they were the best team at the tournament during the group stage. And most people would probably pick them out as having been the best team across the entire tournament as a whole, though a much slimmer majority in that case. Although Italy were in a group that you would expect them to win, the way in which they dispatched all three of their opponents, scoring 7 goals and conceding none, was mightily impressive. In the round of 16, most people expected Italy to run Austria ragged, but that wasn't how things turned out at all. I must admit that I missed the first 20 minutes of that game, but from the 70 minutes that I saw, plus the 30 of extra time, Austria were the better team, albeit not by much. Were it not for VAR, the Azzurri would have been dumped out in their first knockout stage tie, courtesy of Marko Arnautovic's forehead. But that goal was cancelled out, and Italy's resilience and quality from the bench saw them progress. The victory of Roberto Mancini's men against Belgium was more impressive, particularly in the first half, though It must be said that Italy benefited from Thomas Vermaelen starting the game, Kevin De Bruyne's ankle injury, and Eden Hazard having been injured for most of the last 2 years. The way in which Giorgio Chiellini and Leonardo Bonucci marshalled Romelu Lukaku, the only one of Belgium's three-star men to go into this tournament 100% fit, certainly left a lasting impression though. Belgium, much like Croatia, are not the team that they were 3 years ago, but they are still very dangerous opponents, capable of beating anyone on their day. Against Spain, I thought Spain were the better team, but it is very clear what this current Spanish team lacks, and that is a world-class centre-forward, on par with the likes of Fernando Torres or David Villa as they had in the past. And once the game went to penalties, you felt as though Italy were heavy favourites. To be clear, Italy have had a tougher run to the Euro 2020 final than England have, primarily because of the fact that at the same stage in which England faced Ukraine, Italy had to take on Belgium, though I would say Germany are tougher opponents than Austria, and Denmark are arguably an even harder team to beat than Spain. Denmark had lost just 2 games since September 2018, almost 3 years ago, coming into this tournament, both coming against Belgium. Spain had lost 3 in that time, in fairness, which is not a great amount of difference, but those 3 were against England, Croatia, and Ukraine. Above all else, though, one thing that you would have to say about this Italian side is that they seem to know how to get the job done and get over the line. They have players capable of producing moments, defenders capable of defending a lead and seeing games out, and an entire 11 who are masters of football's dark arts, whether that be tactical fouls, winding people up, or time wasting. Unlike in previous eras, though, this is an England team who are fairly streetwise themselves, for want of a better word. Harry Kane is a master of leaning into defenders, inviting fouls, and buying free kicks high up the pitch. Jack Grealish is one of the most fouled footballers in Europe, partly because he's really good, he likes to run at players and sometimes it's the only way to stop him, but also because he goes down quite easily, much like Raheem Sterling did against Denmark and much like Ciro Immobile did against Spain, where Nicolo Barella scored a goal so good it cured whatever was ailing the Lazio striker. So, how can Italy hurt England and how can England hurt Italy? Not literally, of course. Well, for Italy, the proposition is the best defence at Euro 2020, though they were breached for the first time against Denmark and may have lost that air of invincibility. I think Italy have players who are capable of dominating the midfield against England, particularly Marco Verratti and Jorginho, but I thought the same about Germany with the likes of Toni Kroos, Joshua Kimmich and Leon Goretzka, and they failed to win that midfield battle outside of the first 5 to 10 minutes against England. Though, it must be said that I think Joachim Löw probably missed a trick in not playing Ilkay Gundogan. It's also worth adding that Italy's midfield, which has looked dominant in many games at this tournament, certainly appeared to be second best in that game against Spain. Their press was ineffective against Spain's extremely gifted midfield, who just popped the ball around them, and they were powerless to prevent Sergio Busquets from bossing the midfield. Now, it must also be said that England don't have any midfielders on a par with Sergio Busquets, but it shows that the Italian midfield can be neutralised. England's midfield is unlikely to outpass Italy's midfield, like Spain did, but if they can turn the midfield battle into a real battle, and a physical one, Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips should come out on top. Italy's biggest threat comes from the wide areas, where Lorenzo Insigne and Federico Chiesa have scored 3 out of their 5 goals in the knockout stage of Euro 2020. Both Insigne and Chiesa are real livewires, capable of dipping in and out of games, but also capable of coming up with moments of real magic that can win a game out of absolutely nothing. They will ensure that England can never feel totally comfortable at Wembley on Sunday evening, and that Jordan Pickford will always have to be on his toes. Ciro Immobile presents a different kind of threat to any of the other centre-forwards that England have faced at Euro 2020, as someone who is instinctive, always looking to get in behind, and will be alive and alert to any bouncing balls or shots parried by Pickford within the 6-yard box. Whether Gareth Southgate starts with a back 4 or with a back 3/5 is likely to be one of the key talking points and decisive tactical decisions in this final. For what it's worth, I think he will most likely go to a 3 again, but I'm only about 60-40 on that, so basically, I have absolutely no idea. Whichever formation he opts for, the player from Italy who worries me the most as an England fan is Lorenzo Insigne on Italy's left side, up against either Kyle Walker, Kieran Trippier, or, quite possibly, both of them. Clearly, Insigne won't be able to outrun Kyle Walker. The man could outrun a fighter jet, but with a bit of clever movement or just one sharp turn, Insigne is capable of wreaking havoc. So I think that's an area of the pitch where England will have to be on high alert. For England, I think the threat is pretty clear for all to see. It comes from the two wide players, one of whom will be Raheem Sterling, and the other of whom remains to be seen. And whether they can either beat their fullback and get balls into the box, or make those really incisive runs in between fullback and centre-back, isolating Italy's excellent but ageing centre-backs and exposing their lack of pace. A crucial aspect of Sunday's final will be tiredness and fatigue, both mentally and physically. Both of these teams will be playing their 7th game within the space of a single month, being made to work hard against quality opposition and having to deal with the emotional pressure that comes with competing in a major tournament and getting this far. The England squad and starting 11 played more minutes than anyone else at Euro 2020 in terms of club football this season coming into the tournament. They have just played their first 120 minutes of the competition against Denmark, and they have had one less day of rest, recovery and preparation for the final compared to their Italian counterparts who played their semi-final the previous day. However, over this tournament as a whole, England have had to do the least amount of travel, only heading abroad once for a short trip to Rome in the quarter-final, and prior to their semi-final success against Denmark, Gareth Southgate had been fortunate enough and clever enough to rotate his squad throughout the tournament, keeping everyone as fresh as possible as England's run went on. Italy haven't had any extensive travel really, playing all 3 group games at home and their other fixtures in either London or Munich, though they have had to play 2 sets of extra times rather than 1. The biggest blow to Roberto Mancini from a fitness perspective is of course that injury to Leonardo Spinazzola, who had been one of the stars of this tournament prior to leaving the field in tears against Spain. He will be sorely missed, and Emerson, with all due respect, is a significant downgrade, both in terms of his talent and the balance in both defence and attack when it comes to this Italian team. Both teams have fantastic depth that has been crucial to them getting to this stage. Whether it was Italy against Austria in extra time or England against Germany and Denmark, both teams have players capable of coming off the bench and turning a game on its head. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if it is a substitute who either scores or creates the winning goal in the 16th edition of the European Championship final. In terms of my combined 11, which are always fun because they cause so many arguments, my personal lineup would be Donnarumma, Walker, Maguire, Chiellini, Shaw, Verratti, Rice, Barella, Sancho, Sterling and Kane. Though, ironically of course, there is a good chance that Jadon Sancho won't start for England, let alone in a combined 11. But that is just my personal opinion for whatever it is worth, and that may well be absolutely nothing at all. In previous eras, as an England fan, I would have gone into a knockout tie against Italy with an inferiority complex. I would have feared that England couldn't match Italy technically in terms of keeping hold of the ball, and that mentally they wouldn't have had the belief in themselves that they could go out and win the game. I no longer have that feeling. This England team is tactically very well organised, they have a fantastic belief about them, and the team is also packed full of very good players. As I have said in my matchday vlogs ahead of pretty much every knockout game at this tournament, I don't expect England to win. A game of football is 11 versus 11, over 90 minutes, and anything can happen, especially against quality international opposition. What I do expect, however, is a performance. For England to turn up, for them to keep pressing, keep moving the ball, and keep trying to create chances throughout the full 90 minutes, or 120 minutes if required. If Italy put on a masterclass, as they are more than capable of, and score a couple of wonderful goals, then they will be deserved winners of Euro 2020. But England will make them work hard for that crown, and if they're not 100% at the races, and if they don't take their chances, England have more than enough talent to punish them. Above all else, I can't quite believe that England are in the final of a major tournament, nor can I believe that, all being well, I should be able to attend the game. There was a time when I thought England may never get this far in a tournament, let alone that I would be able to witness much of their run and indeed the final. Whatever happens in the final, it has been a special journey, and England have had a wonderful tournament. May the best team win. That is it for today's video, but thank you all as ever for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on for HITC Sevens. I should also apologise both for my voice, which is a consequence of that semi-final against Denmark. If you watch the vlog, you'll probably know why. And also, if the quality of the audio is slightly different, maybe better, maybe worse, but essentially I'm recording on the small microphone that I used for my vlogs rather than the microphone, stationary one that I normally use at home. So, you know, if you've listened this far to the end, post-outro bit, then let me know if this is better or worse, and I can either continue to do this or I best go and find a new microphone. Cheers.